Last or I'm passing this on to everybody. I want him to see what he's doing. I hope to have you there. I've had great ideas, had another book. I got people here tonight that say, hey man, Motherfucker's done nothing but clean the goddamn place up. And take care of it. Plus, we had to do it a half. Yeah, well, dude, I just got it Friday. I haven't had a chance to talk to nobody yet. I shouldn't have to have the insurance. I have my own insurance where it covers that ground. I will talk to my insurance, but I gotta get that. Be able to take off work, go talk to them, and I'm on. I got 16 jobs in 4 different states right now, guys. I'm lucky to be here today. Well, I definitely wanted to bring it up because I want to pass these out. I got 60 copies here that I'm passing out to everybody to see what he's trying to do. I want the public to be known, and I want to be in front before the batteries run out. So, okay, everybody. Anybody in the audience would like what we have to do is come up and just to the front table here, pick up this microphone. Last time we had a meeting, not everybody has to hear. Everybody can still hear me in the back. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Yeah. Township meeting to order. You want the microphone?
Yeah, I call this meeting to order. The township board at 5:33 on August 26th. You got the minutes to be approved, Larry? You got this one we're gonna sign.
I got a copy.
We'll sign this one. Got anything that?
Yeah, I got one thing. Have you guys read them?
Yeah, I read them. Go ahead.
On the second page, the third sentence says the town of Austin sent a notification to end the current agreement on January 1st, 2025. The board has requested meetings with the town of Austin, but nothing was done as it was alleged the town board president said no. And I'm the one that said the town board president said no. It wasn't alleged. And Larry's the one that told us that in a meeting that they had said no. So I think the minutes ought to be changed that I said the town board did not want to meet with the township on the fire protection. And it was from what the town president had told Larry. That's it.
All in favor?
Aye. You gonna cross this alleged part out then? Yeah, it wasn't alleged. There you go. Is that just the back page, or is that?
No, that's front back. It's full.
That was the second page. Is there two pages there, Larry?
Flip it over, it's on the other side.
Oh, okay.
That's it, I did it, front and back.
Yeah,
Okay.
front and back.
Okay. I will, be all right if I email you guys these copies?
I need a hard copy from my file, so I'll get a hard copy from you.
If you want to stop
Okay.
in the office.
Okay. Okay. Now we'll discuss the firefighting budget for 2025.
Could I have the microphone in?
Yep.
Okay, anybody who's got any questions on this budget, this came up right from Ben. And so this is the entire budget for the firefighting fund, of which Jefferson Township is proposing to spend half of the budget, and the town of Austin will spend the other half. So if anybody's got any questions on this, please direct them to Ben.
You're proposing to spend half the budget. The township isn't.
I'm budgeting half the budget.
You want me to explain?
Go ahead, Ben. Yeah, please.
So if anyone wants copies, a hard copy of the actual budget here, it's right here. You can pass this around, and then I'll have an explanation what I'll be going off of, and this is just, I got over what I presented to the town, at the last town board meeting. We need more of these. So in years past, it's the department head's responsibility to draft the budget. Town council doesn't draft it. So I've always been in charge of since I've been the chief. Just, I think either last year or the year before, Larry and I sat down and started drafting more of a township budget. But they're completely separate currently. What the town council asked me to do was draft these two budgets as if we were one and joint. So we can adjust that. So I can explain kind of each one. Under the first part, we have the general fund. Mainly, most of that's going to be personnel. That's going to be our salary, wages, the volunteer fire department compensation, and turnout gear. I'm going to go through all of this, and I will go down and break everything down. The next budget, that totaled $152,007. The next is just going to be our office supplies and fuel, which totals $19,900. And then the final one is basically going to be everything else. It's going to be our insurance, vehicle maintenance, repairs, utilities, so forth, and that's a total of $79,570. So the proposed total budget on Austin Fire Department for 2025 is $251,477. In 2024, my total budget, including the town and township, is $231,000. The town which paid $152,000, the township paid $79,000. So that's kind of overall breakdown of how it is, and I can explain where the increases are. So one of the biggest things and most expensive part of the budget is going to be manpower. Yeah, we're a volunteer department, but there are some things that go to that. So currently, a volunteer makes $16 per run. So that's a 5-minute fire alarm, they get disregard to, or 6-hour house fire, they get $16. What I propose to take that from $16 to $20 per run. They're not making huge amounts of money here. The only thing they're really doing is just giving them something, some type of appreciation for the time, getting up in the middle of the night and coming out for a run. My officers currently have a salary base. I've included, but don't get run money. So in 2025, I propose that they get their salary in addition to the run money, which would give them roughly $600 to $700 extra. And then my pay, I'm making $800 a year, and I increase that to $12,000 a year. So that's the biggest thing that we've seen. The biggest increase is going to be for the volunteer fireman's comp. Next is going to be turnout gear. Again, in years past, the town of Austin will buy. I used to have it set up on a 6-year rotation or 6 sets per year. We've kind of cut that back. Last year, the town paid for 2 sets of gear. Town paid for 2 sets of gear. We usually keep that pretty even. Again, council wanted me to create this budget as though we were one, so that increased to 4 sets of turnout gear a year. Turnout gear, that's the gear that we wear. It has a 10-year lifespan. That's an NFPA standard. The NFPA says regardless if it's been worn 6 times at 10 years, you have to take it out of service. Departments don't follow that, and that's up to them. But if a firefighter would get hurt, that's the first thing they do is look at that, and then we're going to be held liable for those. Next is the fuel increase. Obviously, right now, the town of Austin pays for all the gasoline trucks, and the township pays all the diesel fuel. If we're operating as one, the town would take on all those, so we increase that significantly from the last year's budget.
I've got a question on the fuel. Last year, the town paid a little over $3,000 for the diesel fuel or the township paid for a little over $3,000 for the diesel fuel, and that covers both tankers, both engines, the rescue. So you guys are buying fuel for the grass buggy and your 2 command vehicles. Are you buying that much gasoline? We bought $3,200 worth of diesel fuel, so that'd leave you guys $12,800 for gasoline for them 3 vehicles.
I just said that we're operating, they wanted me to write this out as we're operating as one.
But why should we burn any more fuel than we're burning this year? Because it's the same number of trucks running.
Well, you don't know from year to year what that's why you budget for 16. You don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I'm not saying, I didn't say that my budget this year is $16,000.
Well, that's what this says,
What
published.
I'm saying is the township has a budget right now. I don't know what you have budgeted. Is it $10,000 right now for fuel?
His is all lumped in with,
I just budgeted the total amount for next year. I haven't budgeted.
What I'm
I
saying
haven't written it
is,
down.
right now, I'm gonna have to look up what the town office is. I don't think you're following what I'm saying. All right, I have Jefferson Township in 2024, your budget for fuel was $10,000.
no, that was operating supplies, it said, and the fuel was lumped all in with that. There wasn't a separate line for fuel on our budget.
When Larry and I sat down, we sat down and he came up with a map that looks like this, and that's what we go by. Very
That's what I
simple.
was forecasting.
So that's how we keep track of stuff. What I didn't say that the town of Austin spends $12,000 in gasoline. What I'm saying is, if we're operating as one agency, then the town of Austin is going to receive the money from the township. The town of Austin then would be in charge of paying all the bills. Jefferson Township we wouldn't be splitting our bills back and forth. So what I have budgeted for the town is I have 16,000. We increased because fuel prices are up. I don't have those numbers. John, if you want to go to my office and print out 2024 budget, should be on my home screen. I can have what I have budgeted currently.
Yeah, but what do you use? You know that?
I don't have that. I was just going to be explaining the budget.
So far this year, we've used $17,043 in diesel fuel. And last year for the whole year, we used just a little over 3,000. $1,743. Yeah, but what I'm saying is I just don't see how you'll ever use $16,000 worth of fuel.
Again, when I drafted my budget, I drafted it off of what Larry gave me was showing that we had 10,000 budgeted for fuel. Do you want to explain this?
It's really a big point. Right now, we are dealing with a fire agreement for 2024. And the fire agreement says that the township will pay the diesel fuel. They'll pay $100 for the rent of this building, and they'll pay 50% of the insurance. So it's a new point. It doesn't make any difference what those numbers are. We're going on the current contract.
Well, but you're proposing we pay half this budget, and that's why we've had problems in the past. Whenever we ask questions like this, it seems to be an issue. And if we're going to pay half that money, we ought to be able to have an answer of why there's $16,000 for fuel there.
Budget more instead of less? Would you budget more, would you rather have extra money at the end
But
than need money at the end of the year?
But it's
And you know how much diesel, I don't know how much diesel we're gonna need. Nobody in here knows how many cars we're gonna have or how long we're gonna be there. So diesel, how much diesel we're gonna use is gonna vary from year to year. Is that not true?
Along with the price of the diesel.
So, but you can't set a price and say, okay, this is what we're gonna pay, because that's gonna fluctuate.
So the breakdown of the numbers for his budget is 19.9, right? So half of that is, what, 99.50? Is that accurate?
what are you saying there?
So his total budget for next year is 19.9 for the fuel, office supplies, all that, correct?
Yeah, 19.9.
So half of
Right,
that-
but he had a line item of 16,000.
half of that would be 99.50, right? That's our budget. So we budgeted 10,000 last year, so it went down $50. So we budgeted 10,000 for that same budget right there, Tim. So it went down $50.
We didn't have a line on our budget. It wasn't published as fuel. It said supplies and then operating supplies, and it was all lumped in there.
Well,
What I'm going by is what we actually used last year and how much we've used this year.
But you never know from year to year. So you want to budget a little ahead, whether or not you use it
A
all.
little, but gee.
To me, that's not too bad.
Sounds like what you're using isn't working. So why don't you upgrade and if you want more specific, make it more specific.
That's the way the township has run in the past, and we're trying to get it for the future. So the way the township has done it for years has only had 3 line items, basically. You had your general, you had your fire, and you had your fire debt, so you had 4, and then you had your township assistance. So that's how they used to do it. They never broke it down to where everything was spent for the budget. So now we're trying to figure this out now. So it's been the past. What's been done in the past, we can't keep doing what's been done in the past. We got to move forward. So I get where you're coming at, Tim. Yeah, it looks like a big number, but we got to start somewhere. If we don't start here, where are we going to start? And it's going to, the first year is always going to be the hardest, And then after that, we kind of learn from that. We keep going, but we can't keep going back what's in the past. Past is done, past is over. We got to look towards the future. What is the future of everything going right now? We don't know what's going to be like next year. That's the issue we're dealing with. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why you budget for just in case. Now, if we don't use all that, that goes back into for the next year.
But-
Maybe he won't need a budget that much next year.
The state board of accounts is getting very strict on, and they want itemized names of countries and, beer, insurance, gas, diesel.
Right.
all that. That's why we've never had that before.
But he,
The former director, trustee probably didn't do that, and it's a new rule, Tim, we're going forward, going backwards. But, yeah, state board of accounts, they're very picky, I appreciate them. They come in, they've got, a coordinator over the county trustees, and, I think that we're okay. I favor of moving forward to 2025, even 26.
And we may, maybe we are a little bit over on fuel, but you gotta understand, there are gonna be other line items that we maybe have budgeted not enough for. Well, that allows us then to maybe transfer some, as long as we stay within the same category, we can transfer money where maybe we're a little short and take some maybe away from the fuel to make things balance out, so we're not in the red in any of our funds at the end of the year. And this is the first year we've done this, so we're gonna fine tune it better next year.
well, but
If I could explain, I would like to explain the budget, and then I would answer all questions. I can stay here all night and answer questions. But what the mayor just was explaining to you, if we budget one place, I can explain what we're gonna be doing here. So, for example, if I have $10,000 in fuel, which is what I have down budget that the township budgeted me for fuel. That's how I have. I have 8,000 in repairs, I have 2,000 in new maintenance, I have 7,000 in truck maintenance, 9,500 in insurance, 12,000 in current gear, 1,500 pump testing. Those are just a list of items that I have, okay? This year alone, I've had trucks go down that cost $7,000. So if we don't spend $3,000 of the fuel, we can roll that over and take care of a maintenance issue for repair with the truck. So that is how we do it and how we operate.
so do you have a number of how much you spend on gasoline?
Right now, right this second, I do not. Okay. So, as we talk, fuel increases, we've increased that. The town, we're joined as one. The town is responsible for all purchases of gasoline and fuel. Insurance. Insurance is required, obviously, by the state of Indiana. We have really 4 different types of insurance that we pay. They have a liability, a property, a disability, and vehicle. If the town of Austin, currently the each are paying roughly $9,500. So what we did, we increased that. We increased that up, so the town of Austin would just pay all of that. So we're taking, I'm sorry, it's more than that, 18, 19, about $20,000, $20,500 in insurance. So that would just be taken care of. Repairs, we doubled the cost for repairs from the town budget. What it was last year at the township end. Obviously, our trucks are getting older. Again, the town engine was down this year with a several $1,000 fix. The tankers have been down in the years past with a several $1,000 fix. So just trying to prepare for that, so we have that money in the event that we need it. The largest thing that we've added to, currently in 2024, the end of 2023, we started with a part-time firefighter here in Austin. They work Monday through Friday days, 7 to 4. It's filled with career firefighters from other agencies, and we have a couple of fire volunteers that fill those positions. Currently, they make $15 an hour, and they respond on runs that we have throughout the day. We've doubled this in 2025 in my proposed budget to 2 firefighters. The number of volunteers that I have dwindles every year. In 2023, I was averaging 4.6 firefighters during the day. It stayed the same in 2024, and that's with a part-time firefighter here, and then we're the same. We're 4.6 average during the day. That's at the end of the run, not the beginning. So if we have a run in town here, and the lead engine takes care of it, and I have a guy coming from Bluffton, he gets the credit to be there. That doesn't mean he was there when the run came in, just at the end of it. Some things that NFPA is pushing, and AJ mentioned this at the town council meeting that it came to, the joint unit that they had last month, was OSHA is making some huge changes to the fire service. It went from around 85 pages that we had to pay attention to and follow to over 600. Some of those I'm not even going to get into. There's so many things. It's going to be hard for any department to stay in compliance, but it is what they're pushing. Again, I average 4.6 during the day. It's roughly, I think it's around 8 or so second shift. I average right around 4 at night, due to the overnight hours. OSHA and NFPA and OSHA is going to be adopting it. States for a low hazard structure, so that's just a normal residence. The fire department should have 17 firefighters. Not realistic. It just is what they're saying. It would take us 5 to 6 departments at least to get 17 firefighters. We're not the only ones struggling. Everyone is. The other thing that we talked about, they're currently making $15 an hour. I increased that to $18 an hour. That's to stay competitive with other surrounding departments. Allen County's paying all their firefighters currently $20 an hour, and that is going up. And Bluffton currently pays a range between $16.07 to $20.07 based on the number of certifications they have. So we went with $18 an hour, which is kind of the middle ground there. My overall budget, proposed budget, the $251,000, whatever it is. Yeah, $251,477. $128,938 goes to paid personnel, so that's the volunteers and the part-timers. $29,000 goes to hydrant rental, so that's money that I don't even see. It goes straight to the town, Colossian. Roughly $16,000 is going to turnout gear and $16,000 is going to fuel. So that's the overall budget. Now, be more than happy to answer questions.
The hydrant rental, you don't see it, but you're asking the township to pay half of that hydrant rental.
Absolutely. So every single one of these trucks that has water in it has water. We get those water from the hydrants. If they operate in town, we hook to a fire hydrant. If we operate in the township, we come back to town and we hook to that fire hydrant and we run in the tankers. So yeah.
Well,
Mark,
20.
state your name and,
In case anybody doesn't know what hydrant is.
hey, Mark, state your name. We need a
name for the paper.
State your name. State your name.
If you're,
Just your name, Mark.
Mark McKee.
Okay.
In the flesh. In case anybody doesn't know what hydrant fee means, it's the cost of the pipe to the hydrant, including the water tower, including the pipe from the water tower to the pump, including the pump, including the well, and any old maintenance associated with the water system. That's what hydrant fee means. The term on the paper here, which I don't think hydrant, is really not correctly said. So for $15,000, township gets their water for the year to fight whatever duties they got to do is That's all.
Even if that doesn't seem fair, the rules change next year. We're both paying 50% of the total budget. So it still makes no difference whether you think we spend too much money on fire hydrants that are in town. It's still going to be 50% of every operating expense is what we're splitting down the middle.
You're proposing.
Yes. Okay. Any more questions?
Lloyd Myers here. Lloyd Myers here, and he was a trustee for several years, and he's been on this board for several years. And I'd like to hear Lloyd's comments on what he thinks on this budget. And a little bit about how the fire has operated in the past, the township and the town.
In the past, you have the town and you have the township. The town paid everything they had in the town within the city limits. The township paid for everything on the outside of the city limits. We had like 4 trucks. The town had 2 trucks at that time. And they had a pickup truck. I think we had a pickup truck at that time.
We had a grass buggy for a while.
Owned by the township. We've only ever had one township, one grass company.
Yeah.
A couple days ago. And it's about the fuel. I mean, everything was separate. The town had their own budget, the township had their budget, and we all paid our own expenses. Then we did decide to pay for the diesel fuel for the vehicles that we have, that we use, hoping that this would counteract some people wanting to go to the district. When I went to meetings in Indianapolis, that was the one thing that the township association said, don't get into. Because all that's going to happen is the people are going to say, we need this, we need this, we need this. And your budget will go higher, higher, and higher. You don't want that. If the town wants all this stuff, let them pay for it.
So my point with that,
Okay.
again, that's the past, way stuff's changing, way stuff needs to be handled, is we can't operate as 2 different units anymore. Trucks are getting more expensive, so no matter what, you look at a truck, back in the past, it could have cost you $200,000. Now you're talking $500,000, if not more. Walton just got a new ladder truck. Luckily they found a good used one for $700,000.
Okay, you got all this.
So it's
You've
awesome.
got all this land that's being annexed in. Are they paying these taxes?
That's a question I can't answer.
No,
I think they need to answer.
they aren't paying that. They aren't paying anything towards any of their services for 25 years because they put them in a TIF district, and all the tax they pay, the town takes, and they use that to entice the developer to come in. So the rest of the people in the township, we're paying their township tax. We're paying their county tax, their township tax, solid waste. There's the school. That's what the rest of us are paying for, their share, because the town put them in that TIF district and took the money that they pay in for taxes, and it's not going for their service, it's going to the town, and it has to be spent on infrastructure in that physical district. It can't be, oh, well, we got some extra money, we'll help the fire department out. They can't do that.
I just talked to Ligonier, and Ligonier's got, I don't think I can see Ligonier, they've got a beautiful fire station up there. I just talked to the fire chief, and their entire building of $7 million is funded with TIF money.
But it was built in that district. Are you gonna build it out there behind Dollar General?
There would still be money if it, depending on how everything was written, there's a possibility that TIF money could still be used for our fire department.
It has to be used in that physical district.
Well, if the fire department-
This isn't in the TIF here.
If it falls in, the TIF should be rewritten in different times. If it would fall in that area, then money could be used for the fire department.
Mark McKee's got a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Take him, hey, come up and talk up here. State your name so we can hear you. Put a chair up there so at the table and let them.
You can hear me. So, fifth district, they can take the money, and if they need to put a sidewalk downtown from the new subdivision going out here on the north side of town, that money could be used for that. It could be used to pay for fire or police, or police cars and different things like that. All based, like you said, what the agreement was for. And if those subdivisions didn't come in to this area, you wouldn't have tax money down the road. You want Ossian to grow, and if Ossian doesn't grow, I can show you some different communities close to here and in Jay County and different places that those communities haven't grown, and they're dead, and they're dying. And I think you got one fire department for the township and the town. You got to say, well, geez, we had 20 fires in the township last year. We had 5 in town. Well, you still got to have a fireman here in place to go no matter where that call is. If you're farming, you set a budget. If the price of diesel goes up, you have to cover that. If it rains so much that you got to spray some more spray that you didn't plan on, you got to pay for that. This budget is budgeted for what they think's going to happen. Now, next year, if they got extra money that they haven't spent, then it can carry over and could reduce maybe next year's budget, if that's the case. But you need to work together and say, hey, this is, just because Jefferson Township is outside the town limits doesn't say that you're not responsible for this community. Back when we started the ambulance, 49 years ago, we had 20 EMTs and we had 6 volunteer fire drivers, and we all worked one night a week, and we worked one weekend a month for nothing, for free. You don't have that today. If you got to pay a couple people to be in town, Alan Merrick, Joe Bumgardner, and Norman Laverne Bushy, and Joanne Hostetter, and Eichler. They were all in town. They volunteered their time. They didn't care, but we only had one run every 3 days back then. Now the ambulance, you got 5 to 6 calls a day just out of Ossian. So it's a whole different world than we had a few years ago. And I don't disagree with Lloyd about talking about, well, back then, this happened, that happened. We didn't have to you didn't have to pay for firemen back then. We all had volunteers. That's not the case anymore. What's a new pumper cost? $1 million?
No.
Okay. What was a fire truck years ago, back in the 50s?
When I started,
Probably 80, 90 to 100,000.
when I started, I think the 601 was fairly new. A couple years after I got on, it was 235, I think, 250-ish.
We are here as a community. Jefferson Township and Ossian are communities. We need to work together to make our community as one. As one, exactly. So, in TIF districts, I know it's all part of the ball game, but that TIF district could go in and pay for different things throughout the community. You just need to make sure the TIF district does.
I don't think so, Gene.
I'll let you talk to Deal.
If I'm not mistaken, Ben, we're about even, runs in town, runs in Jefferson Township. So we're about even. So we do more out there. And as far as water, just like you were saying, where do you think we get the water when we go out to Jefferson Township? Like at my house, where do you think we get the water? It's not out there, we have to come here.
Or if I can say one more thing.
So I checked my insurance agent, and we're a 5 right now in the area, or rating is 5 in the fire department.
ISO rating.
I'm-
ISO rating.
So if it goes to 10, like I think Uniondale was gonna go to 10, my insurance for my house alone goes up $2,000. I'll be glad to pay $100 or $200 a month or a year more in taxes. So you can come out and put our fire out if you had to. But if you want to pay my $2,000 in additional taxes for my insurance, I'd be glad to have you do it.
One thing, and it gets kind of frustrating when people, and both the township both have done it in the past, and they try to split these out that we're two separate entities, and we are not. The only people in this room that think that we are a township department, a town department, I think are board members. We do not. My department do not. We do not care. These trucks are owned. I have a board and a list over there. What truck goes on what type of run? It doesn't matter. It is in the town or the township. Okay, you get the same service from us, regardless if you're in the town or the township. You get the same tactics. You get the same amount of manpower. You don't be short. You get the same amount of manpower. You get the same equipment. We don't split things up like you used to. I heard someone, when I said 250 range for 601, someone said 450. No, 602 was $450,000 in 2019. The 601 town truck was like 235, 250 range. And then the rescue, just sitting right there, which is an engine, has water on it, has a pump on it. We can operate just like the other two engines. That we got for 535, but it was a demo, it was a year old, and so went to shows. To build that truck at the time of purchase was $750,000. So they're going up every year. Some things in regards to taxes and runs. Bryce brought it up. The 5-year average, I have the numbers written down, but the average is basically about right now. The latest has been 1/3 of the runs are in the town, 1/3 around the township, 1/3 are mutual aid. Mutual aid is important because we cannot do anything alone. We cannot fight a structure fire alone. We get a party pin accident, that one. It's very hard to do alone. Mutual aid is key. Everyone calls us and we call everyone else. So, one other thing I've heard in the past, there's some confusion about mutual aid and people responding on runs. My guys are 100% volunteer. Yeah, they get compensated because the state law requires they get a minimum of $200 a year. That's the worry about clothing allowance and fuel, the reimbursement fuel that they use. So we changed it a couple years ago. We changed it a couple times, but a couple years ago we changed it to they get a flat rate. Most of the guys average roughly $800 a year is what they get. So it's not. They're not doing it for money. They don't want it. They're not doing it for the money. They're not getting rich off this money. Don't have a question.
Yeah. So do you feel we need 2 engines and a rescue that pumps water too? That's three devices that haul water and pump it?
So what I would have loved to have done was in years past, I would love to condense it down. If I had my way, we would eventually start lowering stuff down. We would have 1 engine, we'd have 1 rescue with water on it, and I'll explain why in a minute. We'd have 1 ladder truck, we'd have 1 tanker. I would love to get rid of both those tankers and get 1 larger tanker that holds more water. And I want to condense it. That's what I ultimately want to do. 601, the town's engine should be replaced in 2028. My goal is to hold off on that. I want to hold off. I'm not going to replace it, and I probably won't buy an engine with it. I would probably buy a Quid, which is a ladder truck, because that's what the need is. So, but when I'm getting arguments from the township, because you have always said we got to have we have our engine, we got to have our tankers, because that's going to give us leverage. You've all said that's going to give us leverage for the town. That's not what's best. 602 needed replaced at the time we replaced that in 2019. The township engine needed replaced. The rescue being owned by the county, that's given us one heck of a buffer. That's a huge benefit that we have, and we don't have to replace 601 as with an engine. I wouldn't do that. Again, I'll hopefully replace that with a ladder truck, and then hopefully we can place a few tankers down the road with one tanker. Several reasons we need to condense our manpower or condense our equipment is manpower. We don't have a boatload of manpower to take on runs. When I came on, we literally would have 25, 30 people on a run. That's not a joke. We would have every single truck full. There'd be 7 of us in the back of the bread truck getting dressed. It was great. It has gone down drastically over the last really 10 years, 5 years. It's been even worse. It's not uncommon. It's pretty lonely in those trucks. There might be 2 or 3 of us in a truck. The reason that the rescue needs water. So the term is called a rescue engine. So we used to have a rescue truck. The township bought that in 2001, I think. It was a great truck. It was a toolbox. And it was, back in the day when we bought it, it was awesome. It was a great truck to have. It was awesome. That was the thing. Once manpower started going down, it literally sat. It did not respond on runs for years. And I'm not exaggerating that. It did not respond on crashes for years because we didn't have the manpower to take it. I'm a firm believer in making sure that we have water at a scene. Cars don't catch on fire very often, but when they do, you do not want to show up to an accident with a car's on fire without any water. So we turned 601 at the time into a rescue engine. It had all the rescue equipment on it. We just made it a more versatile truck. So when the county bought us our engine, which was their obligation to do, and they were nice enough to follow through, we went with a rescue engine. The same thing that Liberty Center did when they bought Liberty Center's rescue engine, and that's what they're going to do. Bluffton's going to be switching to a rescue engine in the future because it only makes sense. If we are going on a wreck and we get disregarded and coming back and there's a field fire, we can stop and we have water. If the car's on fire, we can put the water out, but we can also use all the equipment to cut people out of the car. So that's why we do that. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's right that we have 3 engines, and that's my goal is to get away from them.
A couple things on that one, Coley, this EV issue.
State your name, please.
Oh, sorry, Dave Rittmeyer. What, for rescue on a car wreck, you guys seen all those stupid electric vehicles? And I say stupid because I don't like them, because they're really dangerous and they're fired. If you don't have water, you're gonna put water on for forever. You gotta have that stuff for protection. So that's a whole other thing that we didn't bring up. 2, is there a reason why the township can't just get out the vehicle ownership and go to an all-cash contract with the town and say, you know what, town, we're gonna budget this much, we've got an agreement on this much, you need a vehicle, you go figure it out because we have an agreed upon budget for cash. Is that even a possibility?
Part of the reason is this budget was presented to us with these lines and said, I'm going to spend this much money for this. I'm going to spend this much money for this. We got down to the fuel and I asked the fuel question and it's.
This is absolutely ridiculous. I am right, by the way. This is absolutely ridiculous.
What?
You guys act like it's, oh, well, if we don't spend this money, Ben's up here with the fuel. You take one thing out, fuel. And you're like up here. And it's not like if we don't use the fuel, that money that we can't use it somewhere else, just like you said. And I don't know about you, because I know I don't. Do you know how much these trucks use at certain fires and how long we're going to be there? Nobody knows.
That's what he's trying to find out.
I'm going through the budget. This is what they presented they were going to spend for fuel, and I look back and what we spent in years past, and what spent this year, and I'm wondering how did we get to $16,000 for fuel? And that's why I asked the question. That wasn't. They go up 4 times?
Have you not bought fuel lately?
Did you not say that the State Board of Accounts is wanting more detailed lines on our paperwork? Are they wanting more detail of what we're spending our money on?
I'm giving that, last year I started breaking it down there. Every year, if I can make those line items a little more clear, it allows the next year's budget to be a better budget because we know exactly what we're talking about. But I'm the, Angie Elam, the town clerk, is gonna present me every month. She's gonna present me with where that money has been spent. So we're gonna know next year, we'll have a lot better idea where all the money's gonna be spent.
Well, we've got what we spent this year and what we spent it on, and you have what they spent it on this year and how much money they spent. I don't know why we've got the same amount of vehicles out here. Yeah, the runs could go up or down a little, but we ought to be able to come up with something that resembles pretty close to where we're at.
Tim, you're picking out one number, gas number. Ben and I and Angie, we have to forecast this budget. And we have to do it based on the knowledge, the best knowledge that we've got. And I'm supposed to provide the most reasonable budget that I can provide. If we don't use that money on gas, there's a good chance it's going to be used on operating expenses to repair something. And if we find out next year that that money is too much for the gas, then we'll cut back on that portion and reduce the budget.
I guess my thing is, so you guys even said that in your guys' fund for the fuel and everything, there's a bunch of other stuff in there. So if you guys know exactly how much you spent for fuel?
Yeah, because he printed it off. We know who we're paying the fuel bill to, and I know.
But you guys said it was in a line with a bunch of other stuff, right? Is that not true?
It was in a line with a bunch of other stuff on the budget, but at the end of the year, he has to turn in who he spent the money, what vendors. WEX is who does the fuel cards, and so all I had to do was look back last year and get WEX's number and the deli's number, because the WEX cards didn't work for a while, so you guys was charging it at the deli, and we paid the bill at the end of the month for the first few months. So I looked back and I got them numbers and added them together, and that's how I come up with, this is what we spent last year.
You don't have Wex. Now Austin has Wex. You guys have Marathon.
Well, he puts it down, he puts it down,
The town's Wex started way different than actually worked.
well,
You keep track of
he-
mileage and everything like that.
he turns it into the state as WEX, and so it was on the report from the state as WEX. But basically, I seen the $16,000 number. I look back, we spent like $3,200 on diesel fuel last year. I called Larry and I said, Larry, can you give me a printout of what we spent on diesel fuel this year? And he said $1,743.68. So that's why I questioned the $16,000 number. And that's the way it goes whenever we question anything. That's part of why we're leery about getting into a joint agreement.
I think this is absolutely ridiculous. I worked at Woodburn, Hampton Ridge for years. I could fill up my truck for 20 bucks, and I could drive all week. I can't leave my house right now to come up to town without spending $100. $100 now is the new 20. You know, and like a couple of these other guys, if they need help in the county or whatever, this group of guys, men and women, are there. They're gonna help us out. They're gonna cut down on their, stop by, I'll give you here.
Could the money left over from the fuel or the gas that's bothering fuel, that part number, could that be rolled over to the firemen? The benefits a little bit?
It wouldn't be able to go to that. It'd have to stay within, the town can make an appropriation, and get that money over.
So let's say you need like another computer for the office or.
That comes out of a different line item. Again, they can make appropriations from that, they could come out, the biggest thing I would say is preparing for, apparatus, maintenance, repairs, that kind of stuff. I mean, how much was the tire for the tank last year?
Well, we got over there and did some other stuff, and I believe that bill was it's almost $6,600.
So, one thing that.
And that's a bill the township paid because it was their tanker.
So Ben, got it. And I want you to speak a minute ago. Are you reflecting this $16,000 to show the maintenance also?
No, what I reflected 16,000 was the numbers that I did, that I got from the town. I think it was, I don't know exactly what it was last year, I can't find last year's budget, because it's irrelevant now. But I had a certain amount in that. I had 10,000 in the township budget under fuel, that's what Larry gave me. If they don't get that, that's not my fault, that's what I did. So what I did is I took the town and the township, I added $2,000, I must have been on 14,000, what I budgeted this year, and I made it 16,000.
Now, let me make my point. Let you keep a monthly mileage charge on each one of their trucks. So what if the diesel fuel's $5 and $4.50 in the summer, you still maintain the highest number for the year? That's the only way you're gonna know how much fuel these trucks burn. And I'm sure they're obligated, they know it, to pay half of whatever it is, but you don't know. So we've been arguing around here half of our time over a cost, and we don't have a damn clue it is.
Well, I'll tell you that too, Mark, is one of those engines could go to the sea. It may sit there and pump water at 2,500 RPM for 4
We don't care.
That's not gonna change the mileage.
We don't care.
Yeah.
We still get your mileage. I understand what you're saying, you're right, don't burn up fuel. But the mileage still gives us an indication where we're going. Which truck I use the most? You know, it's a suggestion. Yeah, you're right.
Fill up you plug up the right numbers down somewhere?
Didn't I request that? Didn't I ask for that? Did I not ask for the names to be written down? And the count? You don't remember me asking that at the first of the year? For the first time to get it correct?
Let's move on. This part of the meeting was supposed to be to ask questions on the budget. We've asked them. I guess we're gonna get, that's the answers we're getting. Let's move on.
So I my phone number, if you guys have questions, you can contact me, I'll write it down up here, you can ask me any questions you want. You can email me, I can answer any of that. Thanks.
What's up next, David?
The firefighting agreement for 2025.
Okay, I've got the proposed 2025 firefighting agreement. And this agreement has been basically in effect since the last time it was signed was 2016. And the language in it is basically the same language as it was in 2016, except when it comes down to how we're going to pay the operating expenses. And like I said before, it was broken down, or we paid the diesel, we paid $100 for the building, 50% of the insurance, but that doesn't work anymore. And so basically the language that's been changed is the way that township is going to pay 50%, proposed that we're paying 50% of the budget, and the town of Austin is proposing to pay 50% of the budget. I'll pass out, probably not enough for everybody, but if you guys can sort of share.
I got a question. Go ahead, Schumacher. All we keep hearing is it's not passed anymore. We need to grow, and yet we don't give any reason why the old agreement doesn't work. You just keep saying it doesn't work. This is now, it works.
The budget.
But this is
The
now.
budget is why. The budget is the why. Because budget, way it set up the old agreement, township cannot cover half the budget, and that's what's needed for the fire department to operate efficiently in the way it needs to, especially with what's changing with laws. That's why the old agreement no longer works. The way the world's changing, that agreement just cannot work anymore, and that's why there's a new agreement that needs to come out. So I get what you're saying. The old agreement worked in years past, but that old agreement did not keep up with the times anymore. The way times have changed, we have to come up to with a new agreement. That's why.
Can I say something?
Yes, Ben.
All right, so maybe I can explain this a little better, hopefully. So, right now, so for example, my house, I live in Berkeley, I live in town. My assessed value is $350-ish. We're taxed, whatever tax rate we're at, around 8.5 cents per $100. So I paid roughly $286. No, $168 a year in fire protection. Dan Sheary's right there. Dan's assessed value is almost identical to mine. He lives out on 1,000. He is his assessed value, like I said, is the same as mine. He pays around $86. He pays almost half, so it's like around 4.5–5%. So he pays half of what I do, but we receive the exact same benefit. We receive the exact same equipment. We get the same manpower, the same tactics. Everything's exactly the same. But he's paying a fraction of what I am. So this is the easiest way where everyone is paying the exact same. It benefits the fire department. We're getting the funds that we need. We're able to grow because the township budget has not increased. This is the first year that increased since I've been fired. So the town has slowly been raising there every year, but the township has been the same. So that's why we're behind. We're behind on grads. We're behind on stations. But we manage with the money that we have. But I mean, the last couple of years, we have not kept up with the growth. The last town meeting, or last council meeting we had here, someone brought up, well, once the town annexes, then we're going to pay the same. No, everyone would be paying the same amount, regardless. So if the town would actually pay more. Right now, the township's assessed value is actually higher than the town hall. It's around $2 million more.
Assessed value.
Yeah, for the township.
Austin's assessed value is $147,578,000. Jefferson Township is $161,966. So Jefferson is assessed value is higher.
So Jefferson Township says that it's higher, pays
We are a little
less
higher.
fire protection than the town hall. See now, in a couple of years, when we annex and that kind of stuff, those numbers will flip.
For
And the town will
this
pay
year,
more
they
than
haven't been
people in
published
town.
yet, so
The
I
town
didn't know
portion
about
will be
last
bigger,
year.
but everyone's gonna be paying the same.
Latest number I got.
That's-
There's one other thing though, Ben. Mr. Shear's paying .0255 fire depth for that engine on top of that .0534 that he's paying for fire protection. So you add them two numbers together, he's paying.
That's an operating fine.
Yeah, just he's comparing to you're operating to the township, but we're paying on debt out here, and they aren't paying on any debt. You're
He's talking about
That's what happens when the town buys a plant. Then what? Then it will be even again, so then you come back and be willing to do that?
The town is actually saving money to buy that next fire truck, where the township has been saving a minimal amount of money to buy the next fire truck. Okay, this is a little history. 29 years ago, back in 1995, I got a letter here that Mary Schaefer, who was the clerk treasurer at the time, she wrote a letter to Rich McCoy, the trustee at the time, and said that we voted unanimously, we are not going to provide you with firefighting equipment, firefighting anymore until we resolve the way the budget's going to be handled. Okay, then another letter back in 2010, Mary wrote a letter again and said, at that time, the township was paying $33,000 for fire protection, and the town of Boston was paying like $93,000. At that time, another letter was written. We're going to discontinue service until we can get this budget worked out. So, and that was 15 years ago. Actually, Austin has been subsidizing the township for many, many years. And why the town of Austin has put up with it for this long, I have no idea. It should have been addressed years ago. The town of, what you gotta understand is if the town of Austin said, we want to charge you guys 60% of the budget, and the town of Austin's only going to pay 40%, there wouldn't, if we wanted fire protection in Jefferson, outside of Austin, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But the town is willing to split this 50-50. I think that's been very generous of the town to work with us on this. The town has been very patient. My board has put up roadblock after roadblock in trying to fight this. And there's some meetings that were missed, like this meeting right here, if it would have attended properly at the last time, we could have been farther down the road on this here. And the Jefferson Township Board, we represent the entire Jefferson Township, including Austin. I don't know why we keep wanting to try to separate these two from each other. And that's sort of some history there. This didn't just start.
He's right, it didn't just start. This is really the third attempt for the town to get control of the township. This is the third time this has happened. And they've never been able to do that before because we have had some equipment. That, if we wouldn't have had that equipment and just had a receipt of where we paid fire protection, we'd have nothing to stand up and say, hey, how come we're doing this? I've got a letter here from Drew Cleveland. He's a field rep for Farm Bureau that was written back in March of 2006. And this is addressed to Lloyd Meyer. And it says, talk to Amy Johnson, gives a phone number from State Board of Accounts on March 30th, 2006. Fire territory, 1, 2, and 3 years are at taxpayers' control. State Board of Accounts will take the average of those 3 years to come up with a levy for the fourth. Township can have a public meeting and advertise to the taxpayer the concerns that will be discussed. And then it gives a website of where the code's at. Tells the law for the fire territory. And then it says off the record. Well, I talked to Drew to get his permission to read this tonight, and he said it's been long enough, go ahead and read it. So it says off the record. She talked about Conant, and she's referring to Richie Conant, coming down to the DLGF a year ago and asking them what the law would let them do. Who would govern over the money, and if they can have a new building and new equipment brought in that frame. The law will allow that if the fire department thinks the taxpayers can afford it, governed strictly by the taxpayers and the State Board of Accounts, hands are tied of the max levy. So the max levy wouldn't come into effect. It says Paige did work for them, and her name is coming up all over the state where she is going and letting the people know about the territory and district laws. She knows them very well. And if she stated, if you can't afford to do this, don't. She meant because that could raise your taxes a lot. They stated that most of the fire chiefs, and it is not a fire chief that came regarding Aussie and Jefferson Township, are coming with the idea of the taxpayers in mind. They said Conant did not. He was asking what amount of money could they spend, and he was glad to hear there was no ceiling. That was clear back in 2006.
I'm not sure what a letter from nearly 2 decades has to do with today. I'm worried about January 1. If you have a plan to have fire coverage, because I know you know where I live, because I heard it on the last recording of, oh, that's so-and-so over in Boston, yeah, that's the same guy that you're talking on the mic, and it goes across the broadcast, thank you. Do you have a plan for January 1? Instead of just the $16,000 gas, I couldn't give a crap about that. I know you're trying, you gotta look at every line item, and I'm not gonna argue that you have to look at every line item. I'm not arguing on that, okay? Do you have a plan? Give me a plan as a resident.
I mean, and by the way, afterwards, I talked to a couple of you guys catch a lot of grief. You're not paid enough for what you're dealing with. I told you that, I feel bad for you. But you are elected. I need a plan to know that my house is covered, Dan's is covered, Bryce's is covered. Because right now, all I'm hearing is them this, them that, both sides, whatever. Do you have a plan so that at midnight, January 1, my house catches on fire because some yahoo sets off a firecracker and not me, if burn starts my house on fire, my insurance isn't going up because we heard something like $2,000. Holy crap, come on now. Do you have a plan? It's real simple. Yes or no, do you have a plan?
Well, let me tell you, I was working on a plan because one, the town told us they wouldn't meet with us, and two, they served us notice that our fire protection was done. No talking or anything, said here's your letter, your fire protection's done. So I was working on a plan, and you know the plan. I talked to Preble. Now, let me finish. Hey, let me finish. I let you guys talk. You let me finish.
Finish.
You don't have a clue. Because it's January 1st.
Hey, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. That's it.
You know, do we have a plan?
I got.
You did not show up to town meeting. You should have. Ask should have thrown in there.
If you can't run the meeting any better than this, I'm done.
We gave notice long before the
I'm done.
meeting.
I'm done. You can't run the meeting any more than this. I'm done. Yep.
Okay, this is what I deal with all the
It's all
time.
personal, by the way.
This gentleman here, the gentleman to the right of me didn't come to the last meeting. Gentleman next to me here didn't come to the last meeting where we could have discussed.
You were notified in plenty of advance that I was not going to be there, Tim was not going to be there. Were you not? Were you not notified, Larry?
No.
Were you not? Did I have to call the town hall to make sure that they knew we wasn't going to be there? And you still scheduled the meeting.
Okay,
I think it's funny too that neither one showed up.
right.
I don't owe you guys a response. What? I gave plenty of notice I wasn't going to be there.
It's funny that neither one of you showed up to this meeting.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, guys, let's go. Let's get back to the guy.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Larry, no, just stop. David, anything on these guidelines that need to be rewritten? Are you happy with the guidelines? I mean, like the guidelines, the firefighter agreement. The firefighting agreement? Correct. Let's get back to that. I'm tired of this too, Larry. We're gonna get back to let's talk about the firefighter agreement.
Well, Dave was looking at that fire agreement.
He's talking, Larry,
If
talk.
David, they need to know this. I mean, AJ, they need to know this. If we raise if we pay 50%, Jefferson and Austin both pay 50% of the next year's budget. Next year's rate will be 0.0654 for Jefferson and 0.0852 for Austin. So Austin will still be paying more money next year than what Jefferson is. And the reason that is because the assessed value of Austin is less than the assessed value of Jefferson Township. This causes them to have to pay more money. So don't think for 1 minute that Jefferson is still going to be paying more money than what Austin has been paying. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, it says right here that we're supposed to purchase and share everything equally, but we don't have a seat at the board. They're not giving us a seat for the budget. We're not allowed to participate.
That's what, we could talk about that at the next town council meeting.
Okay, so we don't have to sign this.
No, we're not signing this tonight.
Yeah,
We have
that's
time
my
to talk
issue.
with, town council
Yeah.
on their next meeting.
That's fine, I'm with that.
You know when the meeting is,
Yeah,
correct? Okay, and we're meeting at
You guys
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever you have, we can talk about
We will, that's fine, I'm fine with that.
You aware of the September 9th meeting?
Yes.
Of what? September 9th joint meeting of town council.
What?
Are you aware of the September 9th?
Did I respond to you?
meeting with the town council?
Did I respond to you?
No.
Okay, well then you'll see.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I've just asked one of my board members here if he's going to be able to make the next September 9th meeting to discuss this, and he can't give me an answer right now. Without at least just two of our board members showing up, we cannot sign the fire agreement.
All right, Larry.
Larry, we're moving on. Discuss the virtual voting. You got the stuff on the virtual voting?
Yes. Have you both had a chance to review the virtual voting?
Yeah. Give us
What's your
the,
thoughts on it?
yeah,
Like I said, I make the motion to accept.
Accept it. Yep, I do too.
What's your resolution number? You got that?
yeah.
Here's one that's got the resolution.
Can you explain what that is, please?
The virtual voting allows the board members to vote virtually on certain aspects of the stuff. You can't vote on budget, can't vote on, so I'm gonna make the motion, we accept the virtual voting to allow board members to vote virtually on certain aspects of the township business virtually. And then there's certain stipulations where they have to be, of course, at least 50% of the board members have to be there. And they can only do 2 consecutive meetings virtually. Anything more than that, they cannot vote at that point. And so basically, you can't adopt a budget, make a reduction in personnel, initiate a referendum, oppose or increase a fee, impose or increase a penalty, exercise the board's power, eminent domain, or establish, impose, raise, or renew a tax. So that's what they can't vote for. I make that
This
motion.
virtual agreement was, suggested to our board is because one of our members goes to Florida in the wintertime. I am not in favor of virtual voting. If a member is going to be on this board, he needs to come to the meetings in person.
Well, we're talking about looking forward, this is what everybody does
You
now.
know, remember, it's 2024 now, we keep hearing that over and over, it's the future now. We just went through COVID, virtual everywhere.
They did a lot of that virtual. We had it set up in our office
Still do it.
where one of our members could be there virtually, but he couldn't vote at that time. What this does, it allows a member that's in Florida to be able to vote, according to what AJ said. I'm not,
There you go. That's fine.
AJ, I went in the minutes that trustee is not in favor of this.
That's fine.
Okay. Ready for the next one? We're gonna discuss any of it at all?
I don't think
Do you
so.
want us up?
We
You want
need to
discuss-
have more discussion on that. So the next topic was discuss cemetery maintenance agreement. Me and David need a little bit more time to go over that, so we're not going to talk about that. And then the last thing on the thing was discuss township assistant guidelines. Once again, there's more information that we need to work on before we talk about those too.
So I said, you got anything else, Larry?
Just a couple of things here. I wanted to remind the board that our next meeting will be September 9th. It's going to be a joint meeting at Collier's at 6 o'clock. It'll be prior to the 7 o'clock regularly scheduled town council meeting. Would you be able to attend that meeting, David?
September 9th. At what time?
6 o'clock.
I'll look at my schedule.
AJ, will you be able to attend that meeting?
Be there.
Are you posting an agenda on it? Are you posting an
Well, I
agenda?
will. We're a little ways away. I don't have the entire, the only thing that's going to be on my agenda will be to discuss the fire agreement.
Okay, that's
all I'm gonna
it?
be on.
That's all you're gonna post then? It's
Right,
just
but
the
it will
fire
be
agreement?
posted.
Okay, it will be posted.
September 10th, at 5:30 will be our next meeting, if you guys want to write that down. That's going to be the first hearing on the budget.
What day is that?
September 10th.
September 10th, 5:30, and we may have it here again. If it looks like the crowd's going to be up there, we'll have it here.
Could you do that budget, like the date, like the dates for the budget, like when it has to be sent in?
We have to have it, the drop dead date has got to be in by October 31st. But there's a lot of steps, like I can't have a meeting, if for the first hearing, I got to wait 10 days to have the actual adoption. So there's a schedule that's got to be met, and if we keep drawing out what we're doing, I and Angie are not going to be able to have our budgets finished by October 31st. If we don't have our budget finished by October 31st, then we have to accept the budget that we had last year. The budget last year does not have enough money in there to pay for the fire fund. So it's critical that the board members make these meetings that are scheduled.
You can't vote on the fire agreement tonight because Tim left, is that correct?
No, we're not, because we wanted to discuss with the fire hearing that we want to talk to the town boss. That's why we had to play a meeting anyways.
We didn't have plans to vote on it tonight. We just wanted to discuss it and get your guys' input so that when we do have this joint meeting September 9th with the town of Austin, that hopefully all questions have been answered prior to that.
Larry, if you don't have the meeting on the second and fourth Tuesday, I can check with us on the superintendent's office. We should be able to put you in the bathroom back there.
You're in Austin?
It might be a little cool.
Okay. How many can you get in there?
Huh?
How many can you hold this crowd here? Okay. Well, if you don't mind, we may do that. Yeah, it's a little warm in here. Okay.
Larry, you got anything else?
You got anything else, Clay?
No.
I'll make the motion to end this meeting.
Larry, I have
6:52.
a couple questions for Ben.
Yes.
So if we're going to merge together, which is what everybody's talking about, the township and the town, what's wrong with the township? I'm not saying board members, but somebody from the township or having input into your budget.
They're allowed to, but what, the town doesn't have input in my budget. I draft my budget and they approve it. They question it, that's what we did at the last meeting. They questioned it, they questioned all this, just like we did here. So I have no problem, and that's why I came. I'm missing out on overtime tonight to come here because they weren't able to make it. So I wanted David to be able to have an explanation. So I wanted to explain. No other thinking.
Well, just because it's so contentious,
Mhm.
maybe that would help, because if I look at that budget, that doesn't mean anything to me, how much you spend on things, because I don't know what they should cost.
But it also
So we
doesn't
have
understand,
somebody
it doesn't
that
mean
did.
anything to them because they don't understand. They're not
Okay,
hired yet.
so
That's why it's
somebody
department
maybe
head.
knows that would represent the township. You see what I'm saying? That might make people feel a little bit more, that you're just not, and I'm not saying you are, you're just not saying I want the moon, because you're gonna pay half. If we've had some kind of input, or, oversight, that might be some.
So I agree, I understand what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying. You might talk in the last meeting, I mean, the ultimate, this is going to go to the territory or district regardless. It's what we want, this is where the state puts you. So this is just a stopgap, and last year, 2 years ago, Bluffton formed their territory, and they rushed it, in my opinion, and they'll tell you the same. They rushed it, that's what I don't want to do is rush it. I want to be able to take our time and getting a little bit more manpower, preparing for the apparatus will break down. I mean, we will have issues. This budget will get us by for the next couple of years, so we're not rushing. And that's my ultimate goal. Because when we do that, I would answer to the board. I'd answer to the territory board, which Jefferson Township would appoint someone, town boss would appoint someone, and whoever else involved. They would appoint someone, they would have their representation, and then I would draft the budget still, and I would take it to that board. So, no different than what I did here. I wanted to explain to them what the budget was gonna be. No different than I explained the town what the budget was gonna be. But it's not it's not the elected officials' job to know what equipment's best, to know, that's my job, and I know more about the fire department than any of the elected officials here. And, definitely see what you're saying. That's where we're gonna go. That's where we're headed, regardless if we want to or not. Because that's the state pushing. So I just want to be able to take it.
And part two was you talked about appropriating funds from one place to the other. Let's say you spend 5,000 on fuel and you budgeted 16, you can use that money somewhere else. Again, the township having some kind of input into that.
So it would. So for example, it might be a township engine might go down. We might, if we trash a tire, you know, it's gonna be $5,000. We can take that money over. They're gonna have a say because we're gonna talk to them. We could draw the contract that they, you know, we could draw anything that we wanted. Really. But the township would have a say as far as because they're going, hey, we're gonna be taking care of your guys' truck. So we're not just gonna be we're not wasting this money that we have budgeted. I don't know how to explain it.
No, I understand what the budget is for, but let's say you're asking for 251 or whatever. In reality, let's say it comes in at 200. That's what you actually spend then. That 50,000, okay, it's saved for a couple of years. Does that mean our taxes go down the following year, Larry? Because they're gonna keep going up, this kind of stuff.
It can. So
Will it?
I don't know. That's what we can pull that money over. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to just keep giving people money of mine to just save.
Neither do I. I just look at my check and it's amazing how much we go for food from it. Okay. But I want to say this, and you got interrupted, but for example, last year the town's budget, I forget exactly what it was when I forget what town.
Ours is
The township was
245,000.
45,000. I haven't rolled, a couple years we rolled money over knowing that we were going to be making purchases. So I knew I was going to be buying, I forget what I bought, I knew I was going to be buying turnout gear. So,
We encumber turnout gear for the following year.
yeah. So we've never had an influx of money, okay? The town also doesn't have an influx of money. I raised up $20,000 from last year to this year, but that was also adding a second part-time. So I don't have an abundance of money anywhere in the town or township every year. I pretty much stick to what that budget is, because we have unforeseen expenses. And we do have, you know, it might be a couple $1,000. We usually roll that over with the intent of either paying for turnout gear, because if we need to buy fire hose, whatever we need to buy, we usually have that money, and I'm able to say, hey, we're gonna roll this money over for this specific thing. And council has, you know, council approved that. We put it in there that when we're gonna be doing that, the township is included, that's when the township's gonna work out, but you know, they gotta go to the same meeting together.
We've asked for meetings before this. We asked,
They will go to a
we
meeting.
were refused. We
I
were
would like
refused
those
by the
dates,
town
David.
board.
I need those.
I agree totally, and we asked earlier, and we were refused by the president of the town council, were we not?
And we gotta remember, David,
Okay, well, they're jumping on me that I didn't show up, but that I didn't refuse to come. He refused it. I'm here
he doesn't
today.
have to, we could
David's,
set up.
Dennis came to your guys' meeting, Dennis came to your guys' meeting. They lost me.
But like I say, Josh does not have to determine when they have meetings. If they need another meeting, there's 4 other board members on that board that you just need to talk to them and say, see what we can get set up. It doesn't just have to be Josh. Because Josh is a busy man and he can't make it just like everybody else is busy.
Correct.
So, but the best way for everybody is, because they have it set on their schedule every month, to meet that second Monday of each month. That's already on their schedule, so they already know when that they're gonna meet. That's why it works for them.
Tuesdays, usually they met on Tuesdays.
Well, that's changed.
Yeah.
Right. All right, anything else?
Yeah, I got one more thing. The gentleman back there, he said, I'm assuming you were addressing Tim Baker when you said, do you have a plan?
I'm open for the whole board to give me a plan.
Okay, let me explain. The town council has a plan. I have a plan, and one of the members of our board have a plan, and it's that fire agreement that we just passed out. 2 of the members of my board are fighting that fire agreement. If those 2 members sign that agreement September 9th at our next meeting, you will have fire protection for next year. But that's what's gotta happen. It has to have two more members of this board sign that.
And if they don't, I have no fire coverage after midnight, correct?
Absolutely right. Ben, you have, let's say we did not have this sign. Ben, how are you gonna handle that if somebody, if his house caught on fire?
Those trucks, the town of Austin told me that those trucks would, the township trucks, if there's no contract, then they leave the station and we become Austin Fire Department, we'll just protect in the town of Austin.
Okay, that's it.
So the people in the township won't have any coverage.
No.
That's correct.
So we waited to the 10th hour of bickering.
No, who's, wait a minute, Larry, whose ultimate responsibility on this board is it for fire protection?
According to Indiana code, it's the trustee's job
Okay,
to
so
provide fire.
what is our job? To vote on what's presented in front of us? To vote on what is put in front of us as to we see fit for the taxpayers.
You are to approve fire protection for the township. That's your job. Read the Indiana code. It's very clear.
Yes, very clear. Who's responsible who's the responsible one
I
for
just
it?
explained to you what the Indiana
No,
code is.
it's not. It falls on the trustee. Our job is to vote on what is put in front of us. Not,
The budget's in front of us.
if we don't approve of it though, it's on him, not us to get to
That's
figure
on
it
us
out.
too, David.
It's on
us
him.
too. You gotta take personal responsibility for this.
It doesn't,
It's his responsibility to provide fire protection with the approval of the board.
that's correct. And if we don't approve it, then it's still on him. It has to,
All right, guys.
we're not going through that again.
All you're doing is passing the buck to Larry.
I ain't passing the buck to nobody.
All right, I'll call the meeting at 7:02.
We're good. 7:02. Yeah, I second it.
That's all we've got, right, AJ?